personalized advertising has become a very normal part of using the internet. Every time we search for something on Google, watch a YouTube video, or visit a website, companies collect that information and use it to decide which ads we see. Our side believes that this has gone too far. Today, companies collect huge amounts of data about internet users. They track about what we search, what we watch, and even what we click on. Then they use this specific information to show us advertisements that match our interests. Many people think that this is just better advertising, but we think this creates bigger problems than benefits. Just to be clear, we are not banning advertisements. Businesses can still advertise their products online, but what we are banning is the use of knowing what people do online, is the use of knowing what people do online, and how that decides what advertisement they see. Now, the definitions are personalized advertising is when companies track a person's online activity and use that information to show targeted advertisements. Under our model, companies can still advertise online, but they cannot collect or use personal browsing history, searches, or even their online behavior to target users. Instead, advertisements should be shown randomly without using any personal data. Now, the main stakeholders of this debate are internet users, especially children and teenagers, businesses, and advertising companies. Our burden that we need to prove today is that we need to prove that personalized advertising causes more harm than. Now, onto my first argument. Personalized advertising gives companies too much power over people's decisions. The premise of this argument is when companies know what people search for, watch, and click on, they become much better at influencing what those people buy. Think about it. Students might search for football cleats because they need a new pair for school. Someone else might watch a few skincare videos because they're just curious how to fix their acne. These seems like normal acts, but companies immediately collect this. Why is this a problem? Three reasons why. First, companies learn exactly what interests you. If you search for football cleats once, you don't just see one advertisement. You start seeing these same ads on YouTube, Instagram, Google, and many other websites you go to. The company now knows what catches your attention. Second, seeing the same advertisement again and again changes people's decisions. At first, the student was only comparing different cleats, but now after seeing the same brand every single day, they start thinking maybe I should just get these. The advertisement slowly changes their decision because it keeps appearing everywhere they go online. This is why companies spend so much money on personalized advertising. Third, this effect is much stronger on younger people. Teenagers are still forming habits and preferences. They're also much more influenced by trends in social media and social pressure around them. For example, a teenager might watch a few videos about a new phone, even though they were not thinking to buy it. Repeated exposure makes it feel normal, expected, and necessary. Over time, they lose full control over their decision, and their decision is shaped by what these companies have repeatedly shown to them. So why does this matter? First, people lose real control over their decisions. They think they're choosing freely, but their attention has already been filtered and controlled by companies using their personal data. Second, this leads to unnecessary buying. People end up buying things they did not plan to buy, not because they needed them, but because they repeatedly pushed toward them over millions of users. This creates a bad culture where spending is made by influence and not their actual need. Third, and most importantly, it creates an imbalance of power between these companies and users. Companies now know more about individuals. The individuals know about how they're even being influenced. That means that one side controls the environment of what the user lives in, while the other side is just living in it without knowing what's happening. That is not a fair relationship. On the comparative, in their world, companies are allowed to keep collecting personal data and to target people more. That means advertising becomes more expensive and more difficult to avoid. In our world, companies can still advertise, but they must compete on product quality, price, and their message on the product itself, not on how well they can track and influence individual behavior. Now, that is the right way to make advertisements. This creates a fair algorithm where people are influenced by information and not surveillance. In conclusion, personalized advertising is not just about showing ads to what the users like. It is about companies collecting personal data, building profiles, and using that specific information to shape what these people buy, especially young people who are the most vulnerable. We do not ban advertising. We only stop companies from using personal data to control their decisions. Thank you.
I think the main reason why ad blockers were invented in the first place and the reason why unskippable ads become a mere distraction is status quo is because personalized advertisements were not implemented beforehand. We tell you that in the modern culture, ads are no longer tools used to hook people, but are digital pests that people actually want to skip and get over quickly. By implementing personal ads with regulations and policies, we tell you that we create a more effective uses of ads and prevent unnecessary overreaches of the government. Proud to oppose. Before our two construction, some recharacterizations and points of framing. Our counter model is to make personalized advertisements voluntary for every website or app that wants This means that people can choose if they want to see personalized ads or have paywalls. Counterfactual is filtered advertisements significantly benefiting the customer by seeing how actually helpful and useful ads, not just random unwanted items. Some rebuttals before are too constructive. One, too little privacy, they say. Consumers choose to be reported on to terms of uses and accept the cookies that the app platform provides. The decisions are not lost because they simply press not interested. Their argument lacks analysis and how it will actually be implemented. Also, even if they say they're control like robot, that's not all it means that people will like boycott and complain. That means that these companies. Moving on to our team's first argument, which is the government overreach. Government should ban something if it is a direct and concrete harm. This principle here is that banning personalized advertisements is unnecessary. Three layers of analysis. First, the government only bans people from irreversible risks on society. Three layers of analysis then. First, the government only bans people from something when it possesses severe irreversible risks on society as a whole. Personalized advertisements are not proven to have a tangible, concrete harm that happens to people, nor is it severe enough. The government's main duty is not to interfere with our needs, but to protect and make meaningful contributions to help out individuals. Second, because consumers always have the freedom of either keeping the personalized advertisements or removing them. We think it is unnecessary that the government steps in and prevents individuals from seeking mere convenience based on their interests. Third, the central issue in this debate is power. On one side, stand established celebrities, major artists, and entertainment companies. They possess audiences, influence, financial resources, and industry connections. On the other side, stand aspiring writers and creators. They may have talent, but they often lack the social capability, visibility, and networks necessary to succeed independently. This imbalance fundamentally shapes the relationship between the two parties. Moving on to our team's second argument, which is the benefits for the customers. The ban that they're creating on their side simply has no beneficial outcome on their side of the house at the end of the day. Three reasons for this. First, it is simply not efficient enough. Two, minors are exposed to explicit content. And three, they do not create a better experience for the customers in the get-go. And three layers of analysis. First, the ban is not necessary on their side of the house. There's no benefit from their side of the house and actually makes problem worse. If they ban ads, less companies are able to be promoted, which means that newer companies simply have no choice to rise up. That means less ideas are able to be spread more globally, and less enjoyment is able to given to consumers in the long term. Second, the ban is also detrimental to companies as well, because their advertisements make no major profits or positive results when their products aren't services are exposed to individuals who actually are likely to be attracted and purchase that product. And three, the customers can actually buy the thing they want in the first place because they're led to products that they actually want, which helps the companies to help the consumers buy the products that they actually want. What's the overall comparative? Personalized advertisements are able to adjust to what the user wants to see and therefore are converting to useful ads. And under their role, they are choosing to let ads reach out to a wrong audience and fail to make effective results. For these reasons, oppose.
Before I start my speech, I would like to rebut the analysis and the general argument of the Prime Minister, Leader of Opposition, sorry. First of all, they have mentioned that banning is only necessary when a certain material is dangerous or harmful to the environment. However, in this material of invading anonymity and free voice on the internet, I believe that this can be I believe that this material can be eventually more dangerous than current materials are dangerous for. Current materials are dangerous, at least have acknowledgement and a voice in society, but these small materials like personalized advertising can grow so fast that we don't spend enough time to actually debate and think about it. Moving on to their argument. They say that it's actually beneficial for the customers to be presented to these new companies, and it's also beneficial for the companies because they're having their products and ideas promoted. However, customers know what they want best. Doing all of that analysis and information taking is unnecessary for the for the customers will eventually search for what they want, and ads will only be aggravating and be in the way for the consumers if ads are implemented, and it will not be it will not be as effective as what the leader of opposition says it to be. Moving on to my argument, the I'll I'll present the proposition to be saying that it does not keep anonymity on the internet. Companies tracking everything that the user does to advertise things more effectively might seem beneficial for the consumer, but they lose something even more valuable, which is their anonymity, like I said in the rebuttal. The internet is a place where everyone wants to be treated how they want to be treated, and the loss of anonymity leads to this value of the internet to be depleted, making the internet no different from society. Most users come to the internet or online platforms to take themselves away from the stresses of society. But if they have to stress about what they watch even on the internet loses purpose in that sense. This will lead to less individuals accessing the internet platforms, making the ads useless. The sheer purpose of these ads, which is to make money off of marketing, will lose its value if there are less people using the internet due to this reason. The act of tracking personal records of what an individual did at a certain point in their life itself is not morally right. To add on, to share one's personal information for the purpose of marketing is clearly outrageous to the users who might not want their history to be transparent to the companies. There, Therefore, I'm proud to propose.
Their side does not completely prove why the ban is justified in the first place, and that is why we take the debate home. Some refutation before moving on to the extension. First argument they talk about is that, oh, like these companies get too much power. There's two structural reasons why this is not true. Because first of all, insofar as people have the ultimate choice to choose to buy a product, we tell that the companies don't have too much power. What are the functions of the advertisement in the first place? It's to attract the customers and persuade them to buy their things. They cannot physically force the person to buy the product. This is why, at the end of the day, the people have more power. Additionally, our current model mitigates this harm. We tell from Ian's framing that there will be regulations, like the choice to opt out of sharing personal data for the exchange of experiencing a paywall or like just simple ads. This gives them the agency to choose if they want to see personalized ads, which defeats their side. Additionally, the European government already banned automatic personal data taking, and every website situated in Europe is forced to ask if they want to take personalized ads, meaning that we still provide people some amount of agency and power. This gives ultimate power to the people, not the companies. Even if this is true, we tell that this harms the wrong stakeholders because large corporations are already known enough because their brand name is big. For example, McDonald's doesn't necessarily need to make advertisements because everyone knows McDonald's. It's like a little fast food chain and they're all over the world. Yet startups and SMBs, like small, medium-sized enterprises, are not known enough to survive simple ads and like that are not completely targeted to the best audiences. Because under their world, SMEs are going to be SMEs are going to be harmed because they structurally do not have enough of like an audience or enough of a brand name to be able to spread their word. They need personal advertisements to be able to spread themselves when they have targeted when they do not have targeted ads under their world, they cannot target the people that actually are able to benefit from the SMEs and the SMEs cannot benefit. Then we went on the vulnerability weighing because they cannot help the SMEs. Additionally, regulations are more effective because this helps the SMEs are trying to survive and also helps the customers because the customers actually get products that are tailored towards their interests, what they actually want, as you've already explained and also is in the info slide. Second of all, they talk about how, oh, like privacy and there's no anonymity. So first of all, this is not true because a company doesn't actually harm privacy in the way that the EPM talks about it. Because the data that I shared when there is personal advertisement isn't that, oh, like they know all about you, they know like who you are as a person, they know all about you. It's not like that. It's not like a complete CCTV that's tracking you 24/7. It's more like they just have this like they know like what you search up, they know what you're interested in, and you're just one of the many data that they have across the world, and they don't like no one is actually going to be able to remember that. Additionally, people use the internet regardless of having personal data or like take like personalized
Joy.
advertisements, and access to the internet is actually worse than their world, as well as explained in my extension. And yeah.
If people truly have their full independent choice, why is it necessary for companies to track their behavior through these for
The reason why we're having personalized advertising in the first place is because we want people to actually get the products that they want. Additionally, even if you're we thought that this is not justified enough, and I'll explain a bit more about that in my extension. Then the extension is that the ban on personalized advertising makes websites and apps hard to access. When personalized advertisements are banned, websites have no choice but to enforce strict paywalls. Now, our counter model also talks about the choice between personalized advertisements and opting out of paywalls. But the distinction is this: people are not going to like non-personalized ads in the government's world, so websites will struggle to profit. Therefore, they're forced to make expensive paywalls to make a profit. Under our world, websites have less of an incentive to actually make so much since that gives them a lot of profits and they can actually sell like the products with those advertisements. Then under their world, they have a higher access barrier because they're likely to have a higher paywall because that's like their own almost their only source of money, like the New York Times, for example, has. Under our world, since we give them a choice between personalized ads and just like paywalls, the paywalls are not likely to be so much as high under their world. Their world makes access to the internet harder. Thank you very much.
Advertising can be annoying at all times. There can be different types of advertisement methods, such as using a personalized advertisement, which we are talking about today. A personalized advertisement is not a very safe way for companies to use upon a person's life. This can lead to an invasion of privacy towards these innocent citizens. As I am the third speaker of the proposition team, I would like to rebuttal against the opposition team's claims. After that, I'll present the clashes of today's debate and wrap it up with a conclusion. First of all, they have stated that the leader of opposition stated that people can choose to remove personalized advertisement. Although you can choose to remove advertisement, it costs money to remove them. The first speaker of the opposition team is thinking that personalized advertisements are just pop-up ads that can easily be deleted. As the Prime Minister said, it isn't just one ad that pops at a time. There will be a lot that will appear over time. Not only that, some ads forces you to watch them and makes people wait 5 seconds until they can skip. For example, YouTube. They give away ads that are 5 seconds. Yes, they can skip. However, they still have to forcefully watch that first 5 seconds, which is still annoying enough. Moving on, the deputy leader of opposition stated that they need personalized advertisement to spread the company. The company doesn't need personalized advertisement to spread themselves. The opposition already said that they can just skip an advertisement. This will lead to people ignoring that specific company's advertisement, which would basically stop the spreading of their own company's reputation. Not only that, people will not really believe a company that's not really hugely named. Now, moving on, I would like to present the clashes of today's debate. The clashes of this debate will be social media and companies. These clashes were presented from both our side, the proposition, and also the opposition side. So how did we win this debate? We showed a much more clear reason on how social media was affected in a certain way. In this case, we have shown social media in a more negative way. In contrast, the opposition team has failed to show how social media affected their side and didn't show a clear impact on how this affected them, since they didn't show how they didn't become more specific. To continue to the second clash of today's debate, our side have shown companies and explained it in a more specific way, such as companies can be affected in a bad way. On the other hand, the opposition team didn't show how companies worked in their side of world, and they only said how companies would get affected in one way, such as spreading their own word through personalized advertising. While we showed how companies work in our world of personalized advertising, which is removed. This clearly shows how our sides of proposition have won this debate with little to no effort. In conclusion, our side of this debate clearly showed how personalized advertisement can invade people's privacy, how the advertisement companies have too much power, and how it is not very effective to use personalized advertisement because of the loss of anonymity. This is why I am proud to propose.
This debate isn't only about the customers. While our LO and DLO provide a deep analysis of great depth and how customers benefit, we tell you that our side has the delta on benefiting the companies as well at the end of the day. One clarification I want to make before the two clashes. Their side does not engage with our point on protecting small to medium-sized enterprises, and they cannot help these vulnerable stakeholders just by removing personalized ads. We protect both the enterprises and consumers through our regulations, and also like allowing people to like systematically see and only view the advertisements that they're actually interested in or are actually likely to purchase, or at least like take a good look at it instead of just skipping it and like deleting it. So moving on to our first clash right away, assuming that our rebuttals are including within the clashes. So for clash one, radical governmental ban versus necessary regulations. The government only bans conduct when there is direct, concrete, and irreversible harm. Personalized advertisements never meet that threshold. Instead, consumers have to retain agency and they can ignore ads, change their privacy settings, opt out of personalization, or use ad blockers, meaning that this is obviously voluntary and not mandatory or not forced at all. This means any potential harms are mitigated through individual choice rather than ad blocker, like state coercion. In their world, the government removes this choice by failing to prove that a total ban is necessary. Because less restrictive alternatives already solve the problem, their ban becomes disproportionate government overreach and is not actually an effective solution. Therefore, our role achieves protection while preserving freedom, making it a more principled and effective model. We tell you that in a modern society, banning effective tools simply because of a few drawbacks that they concede is very radical and it's very unnecessary and simply overreach as we have characterized throughout our bench. When we compare the effectiveness of the advertisements that it has on the customers and companies while actually undergoing policies to shape it into a sharp and flawless function, it is clearly better for all stakeholders in this motion at the end of the day. I think the weighing metric here is the scale of the action and harm. Because as inside Gov, the trade-off is the prevention of unlikely manipulation and privacy, easily defendable and able to be regulated via our regulations and like the regulations that we provide, which therefore we protect the small enterprises, consumers, and also the companies at the end of the day. So moving on to the second clash, which is clash to consumer welfare versus false protection. As in our side, consumers maximize their welfare because personalized advertisements actually help them discover products that they can actually use and services that are actually relevant to their interests, reducing search costs and saving time. Such as the examples we provided in LO speech, non-parent individuals do not have to be exposed to childcare product advertisements, and males do not need to be exposed to feminine products, vice versa. No, thank you. Those who prioritize privacy still retain the freedom to opt out or adjust the settings, meaning benefits are preserved without forcing the same outcome on everyone. And in their world, the government removes these benefits from every consumer under the guise of protection, even though the users already have less restrictive ways to protect their privacy. As a result, they have to reduce overall consumer welfare while offering little additional protection, meaning our world actually achieves a better balance of benefits and choice at the end of the day. Additionally, we tell you that their model only assumes that removing personalized advertisements automatically protects consumers and the customers who are actually likely to purchase these products, but it does not eliminate advertising itself, as we mentioned, but it only makes advertisements less relevant and less useful and less effective so that people can only skip it, which like, only remains as a digital pest, but not actually an effective tool that can actually not only attract the consumers to actually purchase that product, but also for the customers, which is like only unnecessary and they actually don't prefer it, which is also detrimental to the companies as they are less likely to be purchased. And consumers still see ads, but they simply lose the ability to receive recommendations that actually match their interests, which also means that their policy imposes a real and certain cost on every consumer while only offering speculative or marginal benefits at the end of the day. And for these reasons, we are more than proud to oppose.
Personalized advertisement is not a harm, but it's something that we could use to help apps be more efficient and create a better overall experience for the consumers. We tell you that in modern culture, ads are no longer tools used to hook people, but are digestive pests, digital pests that people actually want to skip and get over quickly. By implementing personal ads with regulations and policies, we tell you that we create more effective uses of ads and prevent unnecessary overreaches of the government. Proud to oppose. There were two main issues in this debate. First, government's overreach versus necessary regulations. Governments ban something when it's clearly a direct harm to a group or someone, or is clearly bad moral conduct. We have pushed this point starting from our first speaker. Personalized advertisements never meet this threshold. Instead, consumers retain agency. They could remove ads, change their privacy settings, opt out of personalization, or use ad blockers. This means any potential harm are mitigated through individual choices. In their world, the government removes their choice entirely despite failing to prove that a total ban is necessary. This means any potential harm are mitigated once again. Because less restrictive alternatives already solve the problem, they're banned because disappropriate government overreach. Second issue then, protection of vulnerable stakeholders versus false protection. There are two vulnerable stakeholders in this debate. First on SMEs and second on consumers. Their side does not engage with how we protect small to medium-sized enterprises. Then they lose on stakeholders. The consumers, they tell you, are deceived and stripped of privacy. We tell you that this is all mitigated through the counter model that we have already told you from the beginning of opposition, which is there in a choice between paywalls and personalized ads, which are already maintained in some areas. Additionally, we provide better access to the internet because we have already a better likelihood of providing better access to the internet since the DLOs provide you mechanism as to why there will be higher paywalls under side government's will. This still stands because this was not dealt with. They cannot help that these vulnerable stakeholders. We protect both enterprises and consumers. For these reasons,
We tell you through this debate that the government simply wants to promote the genuine wants of the consumer, not forcing them to do anything, but allowing them to search and do what they want on the internet. Optus trying to say that personalized advertising is harmless because they still show people what they want and that consumers still have a choice to choose. However, like mentioned already, consumers know what they want best. Even if this might not be beneficial for the minor companies who might need these advertisements in order to grow, there are enough ways out there to go more. Rather than investing 5 seconds to advertise their company, arousing the rage and agony of YouTube users, the companies can present themselves to genuine campaigns and projects, which will turn out positively if they're genuinely good companies that are worth spending time at. Ads will only leave a negative memory for the consumer of trying to watch a video, guarded by a 5-second wall, constantly refreshing the page to skip the ad. They also say ads are meant to influence decisions, not controlling them. But that is exactly our point. Influence does not mean it's not harmless just because they don't have full control. This issue is the scale and the precision of that same influence. When we weigh this debate, their side defends a system that constantly collects behavioral data to make influence more precise. Our side still allows ads, but removes the tracking layer and protects users from being profiled. To sum up what we have said, due to the power imbalance between the consumers and the internet companies and abolishment of anonymity in the internet, we have brought this debate home. We can't stress this harder. We are not banning ads completely. We're simply acknowledging the annoyance, loss of power, and loss of anonymity that the consumers feel due to these pieces of information being exposed. Therefore, I am proud to propose.